sisterhood. It is just Kristen here, and we're going to be unpacking a question that one of you asked in a recent live that we did over on Instagram. And it's a question I think a lot of you in relationships wrestle with or want an answer to. And it's this idea of battling anxiety in a romantic relationship, feeling anxious, wrestling with that. I'm wondering, is this okay? Should I be feeling anxious? How do I battle this? How do I handle this? What does that look like? So in this video, I'm just gonna walk us through some really simple tools, some simple steps biblically based that will help you figure out, like, is your anxiety rooted in a fear that's an actual legitimate fear and concern that you need to address? Or is it rooted in a lack of trusting God for the relationship process? Is it good? Is it bad? Let's discover that. Before we dive in though, I just want to say that if you don't make it to the end of this video, I want you to know about Love Defined, because this book, what we're going to touch on in this video is like the smallest nutshell, but this book takes a deep dive, embracing God's vision for lasting love and satisfying relationships. So if you're dating, if you're single, if you're engaged, if you want to be any of those things one day, this book's for you. If you're married, get it, and just like get it, because this could actually help you encourage single sisters in their journey, or girls in a relationship, a sister, a friend. Pass it on. It makes a great gift for anybody. So Love Defined, highly recommend it. Also, if you recently went through a breakup, or maybe you're single and you're really struggling to trust God with your singleness, then you are going to love our latest book, Not Part of the Plan, Trusting God with the Twists and Turns of Your Story. It's not a relationships book, but Bethany shares a lot about her singleness journey and brings application for anyone who's wrestling with an unfulfilled longing in a season of hardship, went through a breakup. Maybe it's not even relationship related for you, your current struggle, like mine was fertility. I share all about that. But how do you get through tough seasons, whether you're in one right now, I cannot talk today, in one right now, or know someone who is? How do you get through that? Not Part of the Plan will help you know how to fully anchor your heart and life in trusting God through the ups and downs. Bethany and I share more transparently, just opening up our heart, sharing parts of our story we've never shared before, some of the hardest parts in this book, and we hope that you will be encouraged by it. So Not Part of the Plan, you can find all of these resources at girldefined.com/shop. Okay. We'll see if I can actually talk in this video. I don't know, but I remember I was in a relationship that was ridden with anxiety, and it was not my relationship with Zach, but a relationship before that, where I thought I was going to marry the guy. We were on a path that seemed really good for a while. I share all about that story also in Love Defined, the relationship that I thought I was going to end in marriage and didn't. Anyways, there was so much anxiety, and in a lot of ways, I think that my anxiety in that relationship was rooted in some fears of things I was seeing and experiencing in the relationship that truly were red flags, but I was trying to suppress them and ignore them. So of course there was a lot of anxiety in my heart about the relationship. I should have addressed what I was actually seeing in the relationship. That would have been huge. And I did eventually, which is why it ended. Anyways, but for you, if you're in a relationship and maybe you feel that anxiety in your heart, those worries, those things that are keeping you up at night, and you just don't know, maybe that's a sign it's unhealthy, or maybe I'm fearful unnecessarily. Maybe this is just part of the process. Like, how do you know? I obviously don't know the ins and outs and details of your exact relationship story. And so please take this as general advice. Our biggest counsel to you every time is find a godly woman in your community, a mentor who can walk with you personally and your story and your struggles and your concerns, your fears, your ups and downs, your questions, and give you biblical wisdom for your situation. Okay, but I hope these general application points that I'm going to share with you about anxiety in a dating relationship are really helpful, and I think they're going to be. So the thing that we can count on from scripture is that anxiety is never a solution, right? And we know anxiety isn't a solution because we see in Philippians 4:6-7, it says, do not be anxious about anything. And this verse includes your romantic relationship. So God is saying, do not be anxious about anything, but in everything, including your romantic relationship, by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your heart and your mind in Christ Jesus. So this verse is so encouraging in Philippians 4 because it's telling you in your relationship, do not choose anxiety. Whether it's a good or bad relationship, don't choose the anxiety, but take those things that you're thinking, you're processing, you're worried about, take those things to the Lord in prayer with thanksgiving. Let your request be made known to God. Okay, so God is saying there is an out for you to take your anxious and fearful thoughts to me in prayer, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so that's the first thing, is that don't just become anxious, but take that to the Lord, the things that you're anxious about. Okay, and the place though, so biblically based, that is our framework for this conversation. Then I think we need to rewind a little bit, because in a dating relationship, what so often happens, and this was true for me in my relationship with that guy before Zach, was I started out the relationship with the wrong goal. Okay. And what I mean by that, and this is something that a lot of us can fall into, is my goal was, I think I'm going to marry this guy, and so we need to figure things out so we can get married. Right? And I know some of you are relating to that, thinking, yeah, like that's kind of how I feel right now. But the truth is, you don't know the end result of a relationship when you start that relationship with that guy, right? You don't know how it's going to end. And I think we often view a relationship that ends in marriage as good and beautiful, and a breakup as bad and horrible. But the truth is, every relationship is a journey, should be a journey to glorify God and discover whether or not you and this person should get married. That's the point of the journey. You're on it. You're seeking to glorify God in every aspect of the romantic relationship, and you're on a journey to discover if you should commit to spending the rest of your life with this person, right? So there can be two successes. One, the answer is yes, and it's green lights, and it's a godly relationship, and the wise people in your life, and you've prayed about it, and blah, blah, blah. You get married, success. Or throughout the journey, God reveals to one of you or both of you, through red flags, through just maybe nothing problematic, just really you discover you're really different, or maybe there's a lot of temptation and pitfall and it's just not a healthy relationship, you break up. Okay, both outcomes are successful and the goal was accomplished. You discovered whether or not you should marry that person. Okay, and so that's the thing, is when you start your relationship, I think a lot of anxiety comes when you kind of predetermine that you're probably going to marry this guy, that he's probably the one, and now you just need to make sure to get to the altar, right? So you have to rewind and ask yourself, am I extremely open-minded about this relationship? Am I surrendered? Do I have open hands before the Lord, saying, God, I know this is a journey. I'm taking it one step at a time. Whether this ends in marriage or a breakup, I'm seeking your will. Please make this clear throughout this process. And as you have that open-handedness and that surrender of the outcome, and you're viewing each outcome as a success because the goal is to discover whether or not you should get married, I think that alone will take off so much of the pressure, so much of the anxiety that you may be feeling from the start. Okay, that's the first hugest thing. Second, and I've already hinted at this, I kind of already gave this point away, but recognize that it is a journey and trust God for the current day at hand. You know, in a relationship, we just want to know. And I remember feeling this, like, I just want to know, is it going to work out or is it not going to work out? Like, you know, when you hit some bumps and you're like, I don't know, maybe yes, maybe no. And you're trying to answer a question that can't be answered until the end of the journey. And for some people, the journey may be 3 months, 6 months, a year to discover whether or not you should marry this person, right? It's different for each relationship. But you can enjoy so much more of the relationship by just trusting God for the outcome, and then trusting Him for the day at hand, and then even enjoying the day at hand. So like today, what is true for today? You don't know if you're going to marry this person yet, right? You're in this relationship. You think maybe yes, maybe no. I don't know where you are, but you can trust God for today, and then you can enjoy today. You can enjoy the journey, enjoy the process, trust God with the outcome. Okay, the next thing, and this is so important, I mentioned this at the very beginning of the video, but stay connected to a godly mentor. If you don't have a mentor, find a godly woman, start praying for this. We have so many blog posts over at girldefined.com. Just search mentorship, and you can find exactly how to even like ask a mentor, how to find a mentor, how to start praying for a mentor, what to look for in a mentor. Find a godly woman. Ask her to walk with you through this relationship journey. Someone that you can ask the hard questions to, you can share your deepest concerns and fears, someone that you can get advice from, hopefully a married woman. That would be so helpful. having a godly mentor involved intimately with you and your side of things will be so helpful as you seek to navigate this relationship. Because trust me, and you know this, when you're in it, you can get in such a bubble that you don't even see some things that can be so obvious to people on the outside. That was true for me. It took me so much longer to end a really unhealthy relationship because I was so blinded by my goal of thinking it was just going to end in marriage that I couldn't even see so many of the red flags that were very obvious to everybody else. So have that godly mentor, connect with her on a regular weekly basis if you can. Okay, the next thing to help fight anxiety in your relationship is have a plan for getting to know his heart. I know so many of you will say like, we're getting to know each other, but I just don't really know, like, I just don't know him and I'm struggling to know how he really feels about certain things or what he believes about certain things or certain theological issues. Like, it's just hard. And so because so many of you have asked us, like, how do you get to know, like really get to know his heart and vice versa, we created a free downloadable. You've probably heard us talk about it, 136 questions to ask in a relationship. And you can get that for free over at girldefined.com/questions. And that will help give you just some rails. It's not everything that you need to ask, but it's 136 really good questions that you could use as a great foundation, a great starting place at least, to get to know the heart of this guy. Because so much of the anxiety that you may be feeling is because you're like, I don't really know how to get to know him. And you get together and you hang out and you do things, but it's like you just don't feel like you're progressing that much in getting to know his heart on like things that are really important to you. And so this guide will give you the questions to ask without you having to sit there and feel like you're grilling him. You can make it really natural, just tackle a few every time you're together. He can ask the same ones back to you. It really helps you get to know his heart. Okay, and the last thing that I want to say on this topic, because there's so much more, but this is just giving you some things to think about in wrestling with anxiety in your relationship. The last thing is acknowledge every flag. And what I mean by this is we often talk about red flags, which we do have a whole chapter on red flags in Love Defined. Really, really good, really helpful. But there are more than red flags. Red flags are obvious, red, it's like problematic things that are, it's like a stop sign saying, stop, you need to address this. This could be a deal breaker, maybe not, but you need to dig deeper into this. If you're seeing red flags, okay, but there are also yellow flags. It's not stop, it's just, hey, slow down a little. We're seeing some things that aren't great. Maybe you keep compromising on boundaries you've set morally, and maybe that is a red flag, or maybe it's more minor things and you're like, okay, we need to revamp, we need some counsel. Like yellow flag, let's just pause a little bit, not push pause, but like slow down. Okay, acknowledge those flags. Or you may be experiencing some green flags where it's like, go, like lights are green. You're seeing things where you're going, wow, this is amazing. You're learning more about his character, or you're seeing he's so consistent in what he says he's going to do. He does it, the way he honors you, the way he seeks godly mentorship, just the relationship in general, the godly people are in your life. You're all praying about it. And it seems like, wow, God is really giving us the green lights to continue moving forward. Acknowledge that. So don't ignore. A lot of anxiety and fear comes from not acknowledging red flags, not being honest about them, yellow flags, not slowing down, or green flags, not saying, like acknowledging the joy and the good that you're seeing and celebrating that and saying, wow, we're moving forward. This is so exciting, And so I think it's so important that you actually acknowledge all three different types of flags, and that will really help you know what to do. Stop, slow down, or keep moving forward, right? Okay, so that was like such a massive flyover, but I hope that is at least somewhat helpful in your relationship and how to handle anxiety. Like we saw from Philippians 4, we do not have to be anxious about anything. That is not a solution. Anxiety does not land us in a better place. God commands us to not be anxious, but to take everything to him in prayer. And I hope these simple steps that I laid out can help you just in your relationship alleviate some of the anxiety you may be tempted to feel by taking some practical steps of wisdom in your relationship. And again, to dig deeper, grab a copy of Love Defined just to dig more into God's amazing design for love and romance. And if you've never been discipled in what a godly romantic relationship should even look like, what biblical love is, this will give you such an incredible foundation. And again, even if you're married, I think you'll find it really, really encouraging and deepening your understanding of God-defined biblical love. Okay, guys, thanks for hanging out with me. I would love to hear from you. If you're on Instagram, leave a comment below, or questions that you may have. If you're not, head on over to Instagram, @girldefined, and let's continue chatting.